All right. Let's see if I'm recording. Yes, I am. I'm joined the latest in our NorthWestFest 2021 online edition filmmaker interview series. I'm so excited to be joined today by the filmmakers behind the wonderful Alien on Stage. Please virtually welcome Lucy Harvey and Danielle
Hi.
Kummer. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yes, welcome to Canada.
It's great to be
Wonderful.
there.
All we have is bookcases.
They're great places.
So, I before we get into some of the questions I have, I wonder first off if you want to just tell folks a little bit about your film.
Well,
No spoilers.
no spoilers. Okay. It's an incredibly unusual documentation of a unique piece of fan art that started in one sense and ended up being being received as something completely different. I'm being very cryptic. While we were recording it, we felt like we were recording something like a Christopher Guest mockumentary, because it just felt the characters were so interesting and full of kind of eccentricities and idiosyncrasies, and every moment was glorious. And we just thought, this is incredible. And the way their story unfolded with their stage show, it's just become a magical thing we didn't expect at all.
Yeah, it's a very British and very quaint adaptation of Ridley Scott's Alien in a very unusual way. If people don't know what it's about at all.
Well, and tell people a little bit. I mean, I think I know I always jokingly say no spoilers, but I think this isn't giving anything away. What is wonderful is, and I'm really glad you brought up the Christopher Guest thing, because I kept thinking of that while I was watching the film. The group of people who put on this play. Now, we're not talking about a troupe of professional actors here, are we?
No, not at all. No.
They're a group of colleagues and friends who are based in and around the Wilts and Dorset Bus Company, which is in a small town in southern England in Dorset. And they're not professional actors, but they've been doing what we call pantomime over the years. So I don't know if you guys have a similar thing in Canada or not. It's kind of like they do traditional shows, things like Robin Hood, Cinderella, and there's a lot of tropes that are always done where they have a lot of cross-dressing, and there's a lot of comedy, a lot of slapstick. There's always some songs. There's usually the lead man is usually played by a woman, and there's always lots of audience participation, and it's sort of actively encouraged for theatre goers to shout out and throw sweets into the audience, and it's a real family show that everybody does at Christmas time. So that's what they usually do. And then
maybe 4 or 5 of them, are used to doing silly, high camp, fun Christmas shows. And as Daniel was saying, but they did one show together as a group, which was a Robin Hood camp, silly Christmas show. And then they put their heads together and said, what should we do next? And the duty manager of the bus station, Dave, his girlfriend, Lydia, also used to drive the buses. Lydia's son is a young budding scriptwriter who is quite obsessive about sci-fi, and they asked him to write the next pantomime script, and he sort of turned his nose up. It's like, well, if you want my talents, you need to be something that I'm interested in. So he gave them a list of films to choose from to adapt into a stage show, and Tombstone was on the list, Kill Bill, Reservoir Dogs, and Alien, and in the end they voted for Alien, and a lot of them never seen Alien, so they just sort of went for it. And most of them, it's their first time doing their roles. It's Dave's first time being a director, Pete's first time making props and models, the granddad's first time set designing, the girlfriend's first time doing the costumes with the boyfriend Luke. And everyone just kind of and Jen did the lighting for the first time. It's all just they all just said yes, and then they didn't stop.
what makes it so good is they just had no fear and no hesitation. And even though they had none experience in doing any of it, they just embraced the whole situation and the whole thing and just ran with it and just made it this completely unique, wonderful thing that we managed to be able to capture on film. And you guys can hopefully watch.
Well, I am glad that's a great segue. How did the filming of it come about? How did the actual film come about? And was everybody on board right from day one saying like, yeah, let's do this?
Yeah. Do you want to tell that bit of the story?
Sure. So the filming, yeah, well, we basically started by us going to see the show, and Lucy saw it first. And the reason she knew about the show was through a friend of ours who had seen a poster in a supermarket in a small town. So it started with one tiny little event, like they were shopping in a supermarket and saw a poster. If that hadn't happened, none of this would have happened. It's kind of crazy butterfly effect. So they saw the poster, saw Alien amateur production, and thought, this looks amazing. And then they basically came back and started watching a blog where they'd seen them posting loads of stuff about it. And that led to basically telling Lucy about the show. And she was like, this sounds really great. So anyway, they ended up going to see the show, which is like a 3-hour drive from where we live in London down to Dorset. And you were like, shall we go? Shall we not? It could be terrible. You know, it could be the worst thing ever. But, we won't know until we go there. So they went. Then the following week, they were doing the show again. And that's when Lucy told me about it. And then I went down to see it. And it was at that point that they decided, well, Lucy really realized that it shouldn't just happen in Dorset, because the Dorset audience wasn't necessarily that excited by it. They were as a bit of a sleepy small town, and they weren't really getting behind the show as much as we as a raptured audience thought that they deserved, because when we saw it, we were like, this is amazing. So then there was discussion to bring them to London, to do the show to London for a group of our friends and for some contacts in London. We thought like it would be like in a small village hall or a working man's club. And then it transpired through some other contacts that the venue that we found available was the Leicester Square Theatre, which is this beautiful, traditional old theatre in the London's West End theatre district. And it was at that point that Lucy and I, all this had kind of happened, and this exciting, amazing thing. And we were sitting around our kitchen table. We used to live together in London. And we were just like, this really needs to be a documentary. And we were like, okay, yeah, we should probably make this, shouldn't we? And we were like, yeah, we should. Even though we had no funding, no money. I was a filmmaker, but I didn't have my equipment at the time, and I'd always just made shorts and, promos and small things. So it was, we had nothing prepared to do it, but we took inspiration from them and thought, let's just make it happen. Sorry, I've got a notification thing. I'm going to try and turn it off. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Let me quit that. Sorry.
I love that you took the inspiration from your subjects of your film and just said, let's just do it.
Yeah. So their sort of tenacity and fearlessness and just DIY approach just swept us along with them. And it didn't really, we just thought, well, what they're doing is so amazing and brilliant, but it's a bit rough around the edges and completely amateur. So it's like, what harm would it be if our film is a bit rough around the edges and completely amateur? It's all part of the spirit of the thing.
That's well said. Of all the films that I've seen this year, so here's one of the beautiful things about documentary, and I think one of the reasons it's become so popular over the last really 10, 15 years, and with the streaming services, is a lot of documentaries are very serious. They're about really serious subjects. You can watch from your living room alone in the dark, and it's fine. Every once in a while, there's a movie that you're just like, I want to see this with an audience. Your film is such an audience movie. It's like, I feel like the audience watching the stage play, the cinema audience is like that audience watching that,
It's a complete extension of it.
Yeah. And here, of course, we find ourselves in unprecedented times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a two-part question. Has it been a little bit bittersweet putting your film out into the world and not necessarily being able to be at all the screenings in person? And then the second part to that is, have you had the opportunity to see the film in a cinema with an audience?
Not yet.
No, hey.
Lucy and I haven't even watched the completed film together yet.
No, the only audience that saw it we were in the presence of was the people in the documentary. We managed to get a rough cut, almost finished edit to them as a premiere in the physical sense, and we went back to the Allendale Centre where we filmed all the rehearsals. So we got to give them a premiere experience. I rented a red carpet, we got Prosecco, and we gave them, you know, the 5-star treatment. And luckily, that was our only opportunity. So there's a good job we made the most of it. And it was beautiful to watch it with them. But yeah, we are craving that cinema audience experience. But I'm very, very certain that this film has a sort of universal longevity. And I can imagine that Danielle and I, 10 years time, will be doing this on the regular and going to screenings with, you know, long-term fans who know all the dialogue. I mean, I'm being presumptuous, but it just is crying out for it. You know, it's a kick. You know, I'm still laughing and enjoying it now, and I've watched it 1,000 times. So I'm imagining all the fans who've watched it so far and said, I really want to watch that again, would be scrambling to be in a cinema, to be with another couple of hundred people all enjoying it together, because that's the point of it. You know, that's the beauty and the magic of it.
And hopefully in the not too distant future, we can do a cinema screening. And things are kind of changing around the world. Things are opening up a little bit here in Europe, and we've got possibly the opportunity to do one in their local town, maybe coming up soon. And there's a few options of things coming up.
Isn't that a secret?
Not anymore.
Well, there's options coming, so fingers crossed.
Yeah,
but it's all dependent on what the hell happens in the world right now. But I have high hopes for doing cinema screenings shortly.
Yeah,
this is amazing. You're right; it would be incredible watching it with an audience, especially, you know, like a kind of an Alien fan audience would be amazing. And just
well, I've already decided, and I haven't said this to you guys, and I'm saying it on camera, but I already have decided that we need to bring the film back to screen again next year so that you guys can come here and we can do it theatrically with an audience and have people hoot and holler and have some fun. I think that would be really wonderful.
I've basically saying that to every festival because I want to go back.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, I think one of the really interesting things that I guess, again, because of the timing of the film coming out is, you know, obviously with the pandemic, you've heard about, you know, Broadway being shut down and these massive shows, and which employ hundreds, if not thousands of people, and big concert tours. And, you know, but it's one thing for, you know, Taylor Swift not to be able to tour for a year, or Hamilton not to be able to be on Broadway, and all the money that brings in, and this and that and the other thing. Fine. But what I think really jumped out at me watching this film is it's a reminder of, it's not just the Hamiltons of the world. There are thousands of small community groups and theater groups and troops putting on shows like this that haven't been able to.
Exactly.
What has been what do you think has been the effect on people by having that kind of take it stripped away?
I think it's taken its toll, especially on people who really thrive on that social activity. And it's not just like the theatre shows; it's the choirs and the you know, whatever else community gatherings that there are out there. It's how we thrive. It's what we do in the margins of full-time work, which is why I think our film is so important. And what was so important for me to make the film is to show how desperately important that kind of community creativity for its own sake is for our sanity and our sense of, you know, having value in our community and just enjoying yourself without any pressure. And I think in the context of the pandemic, this film is really hitting a chord with people because it's reminding them of what is lacking in their lives now.
When you think of all the people that have been working from home or isolated, and here's a great reminder of, you know, there's a lot of workplaces. I mean, look how this brings people together by doing this show. It brings a bunch of people from completely different backgrounds, this common, you know, thing to work towards, and what a wonderful, I mean, we spend so much of our life at work. What a wonderful way to really get to know the people you work with and form that camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, it was declining a phone call. All the folks in the film, from the moment you said you wanted to chronicle the whole thing, were they all on board with being filmed, or were they a little nervous or trepidatious about what you guys had in mind?
I think they were very open to the fact. I have a feeling they didn't really know what we were doing. They kind of were just like, yeah, great. And because we'd already developed a relationship with them through going to see the show and becoming big fans of them and what they were doing, and we'd sort of hung out with them a few times. And it was just me and myself and Lucy. We were a very small team. I think had we been a much bigger crew, I think maybe that would have had a different effect on how they were like responded to the camera. But they were so relaxed and just, I didn't think they didn't have any issues with the filming, as we could see. And they were just, as you can see, they're just natural people on camera. They're just very sweet, funny, endearing, lovely people. And we were just able to capture who they are. And it was just, we're really, really blessed to have that. It was really great.
Did you know that was going to happen going into it? Did you know you had a really good group of people here?
No, not really. It's hard to know until you put a camera in someone's face. That really changes the way you behave. It doesn't matter how confident you are. As soon as the camera's on you, you change. Dave was just really shone. He was so natural on the camera, and he always gave us a running commentary of what was in his mind. So we didn't really have to prompt too much to find out what he was thinking. And because he's got the military background, he would give us in great detail exactly what's happening. He's very good at communicating. And he was also really instrumental in making sure in the short spaces of time we had, because they're only available at the weekends, to interview everybody, go to their houses. And he was just super enthusiastic, and they all were. And they were having a good time. I think it was just a very novel experience for them. And they were really cool about it. I think it's not until this stage where they're a bit like, what's happening? Because they're joking about being international film stars, but still working on the buses full time.
Yeah.
Did you, did they, or did you have to get any sort of endorsements or permissions from 20th Century Fox or like anything like that with presenting such a well-known entity as Alien?
Well,
but it's still in deliberation, shall we say?
Yeah, we had an original edit that very cautiously included a little bit of the 20th Century Fox opener of the film, and that's what we consider to be fair use or fair dealings in terms of this is a parody referencing this film, and you're well within your rights to use, elements like that. And then we, when the film actually started to be accepted into festivals and people were liking it, then we really spoke to some lawyers, because we knew we were sort of in the realms of parody, and that's fine. And the lawyers are generally saying, yeah, this is fair use, this is parody, these are the parameters. But if Disney, because Disney own the rights now,
right,
it doesn't matter where you are legally.
But we're basically still in deliberation, so we probably shouldn't talk too much about it, to be very honest.
Right.
Because this is still in discussions. So we'll keep you posted with that. But
okay, it's a work in progress. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your hope for the film in the coming, I say 6 months to year to 5 years?
Ooh. Okay. So have you got any thoughts on that? I do. Have you got any thoughts on that, Danielle?
I'm sorry, I zoned out on the question. Was it what's to happen in the
6 months? So 6 months, we are going to sort of become, have many, many laurels to show our international, we've got global takeover, Alien on Stage on tour. A year, it would be ideal to be picked up by a distributor and sell it to global territories. 5 years, we should probably have a BAFTA under our belts and become the next kind of Rocky Horror Picture Show where people will go annually to the cinema to watch Alien on Stage, the documentary, and it will just live on
with Alien the original.
Yeah, and there'll be a trilogy of like, Alien the original, Alien on Stage, and then the live show again, because we'll get loads of funding so they can put on the stage show again. That would be great. Maybe, you know, in a couple of years' time we can do that. And then some fanatic will just set up a fan club and we can just step back and it'll just have a life of its own.
I like that. Let's make it happen.
So you've got it all planned out. I love it.
No, it's all in my head. Whether it happens or not is a different thing.
I think the first and foremost is my first hope for the film for you two is to be able to sit and watch it with an audience. I think if ever there was a film we needed right now, it's this one. Just a reminder of that sense of community and togetherness, but also just fun. And it's such a crowd pleaser. You know, I mean, I was sitting here, you know, as a programmer, I'm accustomed to watching movies alone on a laptop, you know, it's not a big deal. But watching this one, and I actually piped it through to the TV, watching it and just wanting to stand up and cheer and thinking like this is a crowd pleaser of a movie. So I think we're giving permission for anyone who's watching this in their living room over the next 10 days. They are fully allowed to stand up and cheer.
Yeah, exactly.
And throw sweets at the screen.
And shout and exactly. Yeah, you're not the first person to say that, and I think that's why I'm absolutely certain there's going to be a packed out cinema somewhere on the horizon where we can all do that together.
And it's going to be even more better because we've had to wait so long for it.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, that's the thing, right? It's not like you could just hang on to the film for 2 years and wait for you know, all of this, like, things to so-called get back to normal, because who knows when or what that's going to look like. You had to get the film out into the world, and to see the response it's already getting, you know, just from some online, and I guess the reach internationally, you know, is wonderful. It's a universal. I think watching people perform and come together and do something they love is a pretty universal theme that we can all get behind.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for taking some time to join me. Alien on Stage, you cannot go wrong. And let's hope Lucy and Danielle will be here in Edmonton next May in person, so we can do a group sing-along version of Alien on Stage together.
Amazing.
That would be wonderful. We will be there.
All right.
Guy, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.